Alright guys, what's up? Time for another rookie deep dive, and this is an interesting one. The one player that the Seahawks drafted this year that I did not scout pre-draft. Pretty good success rate this year, but this is the one guy who slipped through the cracks. And I actually remember, I think it was during my mock draft stream, like what was it, 5 days before the draft, something like that, where I actually had a couple people in the stream tell me, you need to look into this Bo Melton guy. This guy's really good. This guy's going to be a nice day three pickup. And I remembered that when we drafted him, and I remembered that we had some guys in my stream who really liked him, but I uh, I didn't look at him until after we drafted him. So now, with that being said, let's start on Bo. And we're obviously into the seventh round now. So we're not really holding anything to too high of a standard, right? Seventh rounders flame out of the league without doing anything all the time. Would not be a surprise if one or both of these guys ends up being like that. But nevertheless, Bo Melton, pretty interesting player. I think he's got a real chance. He's definitely got some clear shortcomings, but there are some things that it seems like he can do really well. So I give him a shot to find a way to contribute on this roster. So let's talk about what he brings to the table here. So he's actually 22, but he turns 23 in like less than a week. So he's basically 23 at this point. He'll be 23 before he plays any football for the Seahawks. Rutgers, Scarlet Knight, I believe. Obviously, wide receiver. His measurables, his physical measurables are not good. Or at the very least, they're not, the numbers are small. Let's put it that way. I don't want to be, I mean, some of the greatest receivers in NFL history have been smaller guys, but this guy, he doesn't have the height, 21st percentile, 5'11". He's sub 190, 189 pounds, 21st percentile, so he's a smaller guy for sure. His arms are short, 31 and a quarter inches, 29th percentile. Most receivers that have gone through the combine process over the last, I think, decade plus, couple decades maybe, have had longer arms. And this is kind of a significant one for a receiver for reasons we'll get into a little later, his hands. He's got the Alex Smith hands. He's got the Kenny Pickett hands. Not quite that bad, but 9-inch hands, 20th percentile. If he ends up playing in the NFL at some point as a receiver, he will have some of the smaller hands, not smallest hands, but among the smaller sets of hands of any wide receiver. So that's a little bit of a sticking point, right? Physically, he's just not that great of a prospect, measurable wise at least. But let's take a look at his testing scores, what he actually did. This is where he actually got some attention. His 10-yard split was 1.5 even, second and a half, very good, 88th percentile. So the guy is quick. His 40 time was really good, 4.34, 94th percentile. So the guy is quick and the guy is fast. And I'm a sucker for speed. When it comes to playing in the NFL, I see those fast 40 times, I get interested. So yeah, a 94th percentile 40 time is definitely going to get my attention. His vertical jump, also really good, 38 inches, 80th percentile. His broad jump was okay, 52nd percentile at 121 inches. His three cone was kind of disappointing given how quick he is. Just under 7 seconds, which is 47th percentile. So that's not exactly what we were looking for, but nevertheless, he does at least stand out in a couple of areas. He's very quick and he's very fast. I wish he was a little more agile. I wish he had a little more change of direction, but at least we're working with something here, something really strong. But those are just the combine numbers. Let's talk about Bo Melton based on what he did in college at Rutgers. So, first thing I want to say is that Bo Melton probably could have played for a much bigger college, but he chose Rutgers for, we don't really understand why. He had scholarship offers from several bigger colleges, but he chose Rutgers. And it's not totally clear why, but this guy probably would have been a more name player on a better team with a better quarterback, but he decided to go stay. I believe he's from the New Jersey area, or was living in New Jersey at the time. That probably motivated it. So let's get that out of the way real quick. All right. So 2017 was his freshman year, so he's been in college football for a long time. Now, this first year, he barely did anything. He played in all 12 games, but he started 3 at wide receiver. He only caught a pass in 5 games. His best game of the year was 2 catches for 31 yards against Indiana, and he had 1 reception for 48 yards in, I believe, the first game it might have been the second game he started. That was the only big play he busted all season, really, and that's it. Like his 2017 really didn't play much. He did get to play 2 good opponents, including Washington. I believe he actually made his first career start against the Huskies back in 2017, actually, and he also played against Penn State, but he didn't really do anything to talk about in 2017 as a player. 2018, he started to actually see some real burn on the field. Played in 12 games again. This time he started 7 games, and he recorded stats in 9 games, or, offensive stats, yards from scrimmage. Some of his best games included 4 for 57 against Texas State. He had 5 touches for 46 yards against Indiana. He was actually used as a, runner as well. I believe he was used a little bit on jet sweeps. 7 touches for 77 yards against Illinois. 3 receptions for 29 yards against Penn State. So again, we're not exactly in the realm of super impressive showcases yet, but he is starting to actually make a consistent impact on the Rutgers offense. Rutgers in 2018 played 3 ranked teams: Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. So Rutgers, for a smaller and not as successful school, did actually play a not amazing schedule, but they played the occasional good team. This is not like we looked at. I think it was Boy Mafe. It was really hard to find any games that he played against elite competition, but Melton, even though he went to a smaller school, actually did manage to scrape up a few. 2019 was kind of his breakout party, at least a small breakout party. He started in all 12 games. He led the team in catches and receiving yards. Now, those numbers that he led the team with were 30 and 427, so that might be more of an indictment of his team than any huge compliment to him. He averaged 2.5 catches a game and led the team. That's not exactly what you're looking for from your passing attack. Nevertheless, he did lead the team. Some of his best games were 6 catches for 127 yards and a touchdown against Massachusetts. He had 63 yards from scrimmage against Boston College, 5 receptions for 47 yards against Liberty, 3 receptions for 52 yards against Penn State. So we're getting there, right? We're actually starting to get to some stat lines that are not just something you would expect to see from just about anybody, just any old receiver. We're actually starting to get into territory here where he's doing some things that are at least worthy of your respect. And in 2019, Rutgers actually played almost half their schedule against elite teams, ranked teams: Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio State, and Penn State, all teams that ended up ranked. So you could say that Bo Melton, even though he's playing at a smaller school with a lesser talent around him, he is at least building experience against really good teams. Okay, 2020. This was the COVID year, but he started in all 9 games that were available to him. He once again led the team in catches with 47 and receiving yards, 638. So a little bit more impressive, right? That's a little more respectable. 9 games, 47 catches. You're averaging more than 5 catches a game. I mean, okay, that's actually getting into the territory where you're putting a really big footprint on games. He also led the team in total touchdowns. He had 9 overall touchdowns. I think it was like 6 catching, 2 rushing, and 1 returning. So he was a versatile player as well, starting to come along as a bit of a return man as well. He had at least 3 catches and at least 31 receiving yards in every game he played. Some of his best games included 4 catches for 48 yards and 2 touchdowns against Indiana, 7 for 86 against Ohio State. Ohio State, one of the best. And by the way, actually, both teams I just mentioned ended up ranked in 2020, Indiana and Ohio State. So 2 of his better games came against the 2 really good opponents Rutgers played in 2020. He had 5 catches for 150 yards, so big play threat, and 2 touchdowns against Illinois. 7 catches for 109 yards and 1 touchdown against Michigan. Not a great year for Michigan, but it's Michigan. 7 touches for 107 yards and 2 touchdowns against Maryland. He ranked top 6 in the Big Ten in receptions, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns. He was one of, I think, 3 players to do that. Now, the schedule this year was a little softer. The only ranked teams that he got to play were Indiana and OSU, but those were games where he produced, so you can't really hold that too much against him. Some of the honors he received after the 2020 season, where he was placed on the Paul Hornung Award honor roll. He was an All Big Ten honorable mention. He was a team captain, and he made All Big Ten third team from Phil Steele. And he was added to the Biletnikoff Award watch list as one of the best receivers in college football. So now we're getting somewhere. Now he's starting to get attention. And by the way, this is all with lackluster quarterback play. 2021, he did take a little bit of a step back overall. A few people have pointed out that his tape was better in 2020 than 2021, which is not good. But in 2021, he still produced. He started 11 games. He led the team in catches. This time he had 55, although he actually had fewer receiving yards, I believe. But he did lead the team in all-purpose yards with 823. So he was becoming a true, I don't know if you'd call it triple threat because he's not Deebo Samuel, but he was making plays on special teams and on offense, which, look, with the Seahawks built the way they are at wide receiver right now, finding a way to make contributions on special teams will really help these guys. He had at least 3 receptions and 35 yards in every game he played. 3 of his best games included 6 catches, 125 yards, and a touchdown against Delaware. He had 8 catches for 101 yards and a touchdown against Northwestern. And he piled up in one game 209 all-purpose yards against Maryland. Receiving, running, punt returns, kick returns. He did it all in that game, and he went around the field a couple times, I guess you could say, 209 yards. The only really good team that he got to play against in 2021 was Michigan, so the schedule continued to get weaker, but he did continue to showcase why he belongs at the NFL level. For his efforts in 2021, he was voted the offensive MVP of the team by the players. He made All Big Ten third team from PFF and the All Big Ten fourth team from Phil Steele. He was also placed on the Biletnikoff Award watch list for this year as well, and he was again the team captain. So that's actually a pretty long and prestigious career. He never had a dominant receiver season, but he played really well and produced a lot given who his quarterbacks were. He never had that really good quarterback who was able to make him better, take him to the next level. So that's an encouraging sign for his ability to succeed at the NFL level. But again, I talk about this stuff all the time because it's important. It's important to understand the kinds of things that he did in college, his accomplishments, what he did well, the kinds of accolades that he piled up. But the important thing really is with these players, what are they going to do for us? Okay, we can sit here and talk about what they did for their colleges, like what Bo Melton did for Rutgers. Okay, that's all notable. What he did at the Combine. But ultimately, what is he going to be able to do for the Seahawks? And he's working from a position of a little bit of a disadvantage, right? Because if the Seahawks are good at any position right now, it is wide receiver. It's wide receiver, safety, and punter. You know, he's got to deal with Metcalf, who's probably about to get extended, Lockett, who already got extended, Dwayne Eskridge on a rookie contract for the next 3 years, Freddie Swain, who I don't think he's very good, but honestly, at this point, he's probably made enough plays to at least be worthy of a roster spot going forward. And then you even have guys like Penny Hart, Cade Johnson, Aaron Fuller, who just keep hanging around the roster and the practice squad. So In order for Bo Melton to get actual playing time at any point in the next couple years, he's going to have to do something to stand out. Fortunately, there are some areas where I think Bo Melton seems to at least stand out a little bit. All right, so I have some pros and cons here. Let's walk through them based off what I've seen, based off the tape. He seems like he's a smart player. Seems like he's got a good football IQ. He played in, I think, over 60 games at college at Rutgers. It was something close to 60. So he's developed a lot of experience, and he's turned that into becoming he's become a very smart football player, I think. He does run pretty good routes too. I feel like I think he runs good routes. Not every route in the book, of course, but I feel like his routes are run with pretty decent a pretty decent smoothness, a pretty decent ability to break open at the important points of the route. But I wouldn't say it's great, but I do think it's good. He knows how to gain tiny edges to create separation. He knows how to use like leverage. He knows how to use like little movements with his body to create a little bit of separation from the defender. Again, he was not gifted with good quarterback play at Rutgers. Would have been more productive easily with a better quarterback. He did do some returning and I believe some gunner work as a special teams player at Rutgers. So he is going to be able to help you there. And we need a return man. We can't give that job back to Lockett. I don't want to really give it to anybody who we're going to need on the field on offense or defense, period. So if Bo Melton can say, okay, I'll be wide receiver 5, but I'm also going to be a plus return man, then you've got something. Then you've got somebody who's finding a way to add extra value. He's good at locating the ball on shot plays as he's running down the field. He's good at finding the ball. Got pretty good ball skills. He's short, but he knows how to maximize his height because he's really good at jumping. He's got great jumping ability. He's got a good vertical, and he knows how to time his jumps in order to make contact with the ball at the high point. Really important. He's talented at getting his feet down in bounds along the boundaries. He's got a little bit of that Tyler Lockett, Doug Baldwin stuff going. He does have some really nice yard after the catch skills. That might have been the thing that stood out to me more than anything. You get the ball in his hands. He can make people miss. He can use his speed. He can use his quickness. He can make extra yards at the end of a play. Honestly, when he had the ball in his hands, that was one of the times when I really noticed his 40 time. So that's a positive. He made a decent chunk of big plays at Rutgers. Made a lot of big plays. And he's got good acceleration. Those would be my pros. Now, there are some issues with Bo. And for a 7th rounder, you wouldn't expect anything less. Honestly, this is a pretty promising player for the 7th round, I think. This is a guy who I can really see making some impact on the Seahawks at some point in his career. And that's more than I can say for a lot of 7th rounders. However, so far it seems like when he gets pressed, he can get taken out of games. If you get up to the line of scrimmage and jam him, it can really take him out of the play. He's going to have to learn how to deal with that a little bit better, I think. He doesn't always seem to play up to his 40 time to me. I put it like this. When Bo Melton gets the ball in his hands and is trying to make people miss, find a lane, he gets up to top speed and you can see the 4.34. But when he doesn't have the ball in his hands, when he's running a route, when he's moving without the ball, I don't know if I see the tremendous 40 time. I don't see him cooking defensive backs on vertical routes the way you would expect given his 40 time. So I don't think his 40 time completely translates to his play on the field yet. His hands are okay. They're probably a little above average, but they're small. He drops a lot of plays that he could have made. Sometimes his ball skills will fail him. Sometimes he just drops a pass if it's outside his immediate catch radius. If he has to actually extend to make a play, I mean, he might extend to get his hands on it, but catching it is a different matter. He will need to develop better releases at the line of scrimmage if he wants to be able to play on the outside, which he did do some in college, but at the NFL level, he's going to have to beat the press in order to be able to be an outside receiver. And he's just too small to be great as a blocker, although I will say, I think he gives good effort. I think he wants to be a good blocker. It's just, it's not the case right now because he is relatively small. So those are the things I would be concerned about. And the big thing with him is the 40 time. If he can play on the football field like he has 4.34 speed, he'll be okay. He'll be able to do stuff. But if you take away his 40 time, there's nothing that remarkable about him. And you end up with a guy who's probably just another Penny Hart type. Not the style of play, but the level of impact. So hopefully he can learn how to play up to his 40 time a little bit better. I'd like to see something a little better from him from the NFL. And that's really all I can say about Bo Melton. He is a player who seems to have been expected to go in the 5th or maybe the 6th. So getting him in the 7th is nice. He does have a couple of certifiable NFL level skills. I don't know if it's going to translate as a receiver, but I do like his odds to find a way to contribute as a return man. All right, that's going to do it for me. Should be another video later today. If not, we will definitely, either way, actually do a stream with the Hawks Nest on his channel tonight. Hope to see you there. Go Hawks.